We've come now to our Friday feature movie spotlight, where our film critics give us their recommendations on what to watch over the weekend among the latest releases here in Korea. And with me now, first, we have with us Jason Bechervaise. Jason, hello. It's great to see you.
Yeah, great to be here, Jang-ho.
And we also have with us Darcy Paquet as well. Darcy, hello to you too.
Hi.
Okay, so we have two local releases to look at this week. And Jason, we start with your pick.
Yeah.
And it's a release actually from last week. It's called The Match, or 승부 in Korean. It's a drama featuring Lee Byung-hun as the Go player Cho Hun-hyun. And also, interestingly, the disgraced actor Yoo In as his protégé, Lee Chang-ho. So this was filmed before Yoo In's drug abuse scandal came to light. Can you tell us a bit more about this film, Jason?
Yeah, that's right. It's set in the 1980s and 1990s, and I did have a bit of a time following parts of it. Although the story itself is very simple, but I'm not really familiar with the strategy board game Go or Baduk. That's been popular around Asia. Go essentially, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it originated in China more than 2,500 years ago. And sees two players competing to control for more territory with stones on a board. And Cho Hun-hyun is, he's a very famous Go player, and local audiences here will be very familiar with him. He was kind of a national star in the 80s and 90s, and then he meets this young boy called Lee Chang-ho from Jeonju, and he's very talented. He can defeat players much older than him, and he can do it simultaneously. As he's walking around several tables. It's all very impressive. And then he tries to convince Cho to basically become like a mentor or teacher, and then they basically live together up in Seoul. And before too long, of course, the protégé is beating his mentor, so that creates some tension inevitably. It's interesting. I mean, the names in the film are as they are. They haven't changed they haven't changed the names. Sometimes in Korean films they'll change those for legal issues. It's directed by Kim Young-joo, who made The Sheriff in Town from 2016, who worked as an AD and. He was a co-writer in Yoon Jong-bin's Kundo. Now, this is relevant because Yoon Jong-bin, he co-wrote The Match, this film, and the company that he's involved in, The Moonlight, produced it alongside Lee Byung-hun's company, BH Entertainment, of course, Lee Byung-hun's front and center of this title. And so, it was going to be released on Netflix, but because of Yoo In's, legal troubles, he was convicted and sentenced last year for drug use. So his release on Netflix was delayed. And ironically, in today's ecosystem, it actually secured a theatrical release. Normally it's the other way around.
Right.
There was some discussion about kind of removing Yoo In from the film, but obviously that was not possible because of, the central role that he plays.
Right, so you won't see him in any of the promotional material
not at all
at the moment, actually. But yes, it is interesting.
He plays a big role in the film.
Sure, it is interesting that, as you said, it's been giving a theatrical release. Before it used to be straight to video, but now it's perhaps straight to the theatres.
Straight to theatre.
Yeah, straight to theatres, indeed. Right. Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
So did they edit the film at all to try and reduce Yoo In's role in the film?
No, I don't think so. I think in the marketing they did, you could see that clearly they were focusing on Lee Byung-hun's character. And he is actually really good in the film. And I've always...
Who do you mean?
Lee Byung-hun. Both of them, they both are very good. But, it's Lee Byung-hun who... As always, he's quite a different actor compared to someone like Song Kang-ho, who's sometimes described as the face of Korean cinema. But Lee Byung-hun sometimes plays a whole range of characters, and sometimes his performance can be quite subtle, but yet also quite powerful at the same time. He's really clever when it comes to choosing his scripts. Inside Men is a classic example of that. And here he's just, he's really, he is terrific. He's mesmerizing. But, as someone who doesn't really follow the game, and a lot of the sequences, the two films we're talking about actually focus on sports. And so if you're not invested in those sports, that it loses a bit of tension for you. So for me, that was the issue I had with it. It's not a weakness of the film. It's just a fact. I'm not really familiar with the people that the film's about, or the game. But it is very, very well crafted, and it does feel. I don't know if Darcy agrees with me on this, but like Yoon Jong-bin's kind of his hand in on the project feels quite tangible to me, and in a good way, because it's a really slick, well-written drama, which is what you'd expect from Yoon Jong-bin. So overall, I liked it, but it was a bit of a slog in some respects, because I couldn't really get into the narrative as much as I wanted to because of the subject matter.
Okay, so even though you found the game aspects of the game difficult, you still thought the film was pretty decent.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's a failing of the film. Like something like The Queen's Gambit, the series.
Yeah, chess
uses chess quite well, but maybe it's because we do understand chess more, I guess.
Perhaps. Yeah, no, that's a good point. It just loses. It does lose a bit of tension for me, because there are these sequences where they're obviously competing against each other, and I just couldn't, appreciate it as much as I wanted to. But I'm sure audiences who know these players very well and familiar with the game, I think they'll take a lot more from it than I did. And the reaction to the film has been pretty strong.
Darcy, did you manage to catch this film? I don't know how well you know Paduk or Go.
I mean, I've been wanting to learn. And actually watching the film is kind of another impetus to make myself learn, because everybody says about how it's such a complex and fascinating game, and basically I know the rules, and so it's not as you're watching the film that you're having trouble to follow it. But I think that there are moments where clearly he puts something down, and I think they're trying so hard to make this historically accurate. I think that these moves are from actual games, and so I think you'd probably need quite a high level of understanding of strategy to fully get the boldness of some of these moves. We can tell that it's a bold move just simply by the way that they react. But yeah, I enjoyed the film too. In one sense it's quite simple. It's the story of this relationship, kind of a teacher mentor type of relationship, and but I found a lot to kind of keep me engaged, even though the story is quite simple, and because it follows a real life story, that they don't try to like boost the drama in obvious ways, and I like that. I like the fact that it was kind of quiet.
Right, doesn't feel artificial.
Right,
right.
And so I never felt bored, and I did get quite absorbed in it, and so at the end of the film, it did stay with me, and I like the film.
Interesting. And Jason, you were saying that it's doing quite well at the moment, despite some of the issues surrounding the actor Yuan.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned about that. Sometimes when there is a controversy surrounding a project, you get the netizens and just kind of giving it really low scores, and that doesn't seem to have happened actually with this production. And I think they've been quite smart in the way they've approached it, and they've been marketing it for quite a while now. It's not kind of doing gangbusters or anything. I think it sold over 800,000 tickets. But word of mouth, is crucial, and if it's strong enough, that can help it give it longevity, and that seems to be the case. So I think it will be popular with older crowds than younger crowds. Again, it's that whole nostalgia as well, which we keep seeing in Korean content, both films and dramas.
Okay, so that was The Match, out now in cinemas. Let's turn to our second film, and it's another Korean feature, as you said, which was released this week. And it's a comedy set mostly on a golf course. It's called Lobby. It has the same title, Lobby, in Korean, and it's directed by the well-known star Ha Jung-woo, who also plays one of the leading roles. And Darcy, this is your film that you're covering for us this week. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, I guess you'd call it a satirical comedy. It's poking fun at the way that business is conducted in Korea. And it centers around this man named Chang-wook, who's played by Ha Jung-woo. and he's the head of a tech startup. And Chang-wook is brilliant at technology, and he's developed a superior product, this underground charging system for electric vehicles that is much superior to his rivals. But the problem is he's kind of socially awkward, and he's not very good at raising money, so his company doesn't have the investment that it needs in order to grow. And then it's announced that the government is offering this 4 trillion won contract to install chargers nationwide. And this is a make or break moment for his company. But in order to win the contract, he needs to learn how to lobby people, and he needs to learn how to kind of find the influential people who'll be making the decision and kind of push them in the right direction. And then crucially, he doesn't know how to play golf.
Right, okay.
So, golf is an important thing, as we know, sometimes for business, in order to meet people and in an informal way try to kind of persuade people.
Right, so the lobby in the film's title means lobbying rather than like a hotel lobby or something like that. So it's trying to have a commentary on Korea's business culture then, would you say?
Yeah, it's one of these stories where we have a lot of different characters, and a lot of the characters are kind of corrupted or they're looking out for themselves, and so they're all of them are kind of after different things, and so they clash. And as you watch the film, the chaos slowly builds, and things it's meant to be kind of a crazy kind of comedy that builds up the tension more and more. But yeah, it does portray the Korean business world as being, not always based on merit, and more based on what goes on behind the scenes.
Okay, so I can see the setup. Is it funny? Does it work?
I think not quite as much as it was hoping to be. It does have an interesting cast, a lot of talented actors, and I don't think the performances is the issue, but it's kind of a tricky story, I think, to pull off. And I've heard mixed things. Like, some people like this movie better, some not as much. It does seem to be, provoking a somewhat of a spectrum of reactions. But I guess
I feel like you're somewhere in the middle.
I am kind of in the middle. The theater was a bit quiet when I was watching. Like, you didn't really get the energy, which is unfortunate, because I like this kind of comedy, and I like. I think Korean film industry needs to be making more comedies, and I think smart comedies are something that they should be kind of striving for. And this is a film that does have something to say in a way. So I think it partly succeeded, but not quite all the way.
Okay. Jason, what about you? Did you catch this film as well?
I did, yeah. It's just, it's very uneven, and a lot of it's set on this golf course, and a lot of, it's okay to begin with, but then it just for me, I just I was just less interested as the narrative progressed. There wasn't enough there for me to kind of, to pull me in.
Right. How much of this is actually set on the golf course?
I'd say 2/3.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's and I get why they do it, because it brings the budget down as well. The break-even point's 1.5 million admissions, so we're seeing more of these films. So that that's something to be encouraged. Not having these big. These kind of films with huge budgets, and he's got a lot of talent in there. Obviously that's partly because it's Ha Jung-woo, and he's just able to bring in all these cameos and small, these kind of big names for small roles. And it starts off quite well. I quite liked the opening, and which is quite hilarious. As he's in this particular scene, where he's lobbying, and it's he's clearly poking fun at the whole system, but I just don't think it was quite. Darcy mentioned smart comedy, but I don't think it's quite smart enough for it to be effective. And the actors started talking in like incomprehensible English at times, which it was okay to start with, but then it just got really irritating as it progressed. And it's just like I don't understand what they're saying, and there wasn't even any subtitles. So. Right.
So you needed the subtitles for the English, you're saying?
Yeah, in parts, and it was just really awkward. And I think that it's like, oh, this is really funny, but it's not. And so it's just so there were just parts of it that I just found rather annoying. But yeah, it's a project that I think does have potential in the right hands, and I think the acting was fine. I think I hope he's not listening. I think he's a much better actor than he is a writer and director. And I was looking at the credits; he was involved in everything. He was involved in the writing, the producing, so yeah, this is the kind of film we want to work in cinemas, and if it does work, great. But I want to see something a bit more intelligent, really.
So Jason perhaps being a bit more damning there, Darcy. But so this is his third film that he's directed, right, Ha Jung-woo? But it's not a great endorsement then of his directing talents.
He's made Fasten Your Seatbelt in 2013, which is set on a plane.
That's quite good, actually. That was better than this. And also tonally it's similar. It's kind of a comedy as well.
Okay. Yeah, because it's kind of set within a one space and a lot of characters and things kind of build up. And so I think that may have been sort of a template for this one. He also made Chronicle of a Blood Merchant in 2015, which is based on a quite famous Chinese novel. And that was more ambitious in terms of being kind of historically set. Type of film, but yeah, I mean, a lot of Korean actors do kind of go behind the camera, and many of them have been quite successful. In a way, it makes sense because I think as an actor, you get to work with all these different directors and learn how everybody makes films, and I think it's probably one of the best schools in terms of learning how to direct a film.
Okay, well, as disappointing as it was, Lobby is out now in cinemas in Korea. And that is where we're going to wrap it up for this week's Movie Spotlight. Jason, Darcy, thank you for your reviews, and we'll catch you again next time.
Yes, take care.
Bye-bye.